Hey, good morning, students. Mr. Smothers again. We're going to start with this warm up, but I'm going to kind of keep it short simply because I'm going to run out of time and I only have a certain amount of time that I have to record this on. So um, you can do this on your own. These are the different parts. This is kind of a review part, but it is important because we're going to kind of springboard off of um, the plant cell. This is a plant cell. Reason why it's a plant cell is because it is square or rectangular in nature. It has a lot of these chloroplasts. Also, it has these little bean-shaped objects, which are provides energy, which is the mitochondria. And also, it has these humongous vacuoles. It actually has two large vacuoles, which take up most of the space. That's going to be important today because we're going to kind of talk about that a little bit in a little bit more detail. So anyway, moving on. Um, Next slide kind of answers it all, but first go over it. This is a video. We're not going to watch the video. It just kind of walks you through. I don't think it has any talking, but anyway, it walks you through some stimulus response stuff. So anyway, one of the things you're supposed to do, one of the first things is you're going to identify stimulus and response. It's kind of a quiz thing. It's kind of the only assignment you're really going to turn in to me. And you can kind of take as many times as you want till you make 100. First of all, we're going to talk about what a stimulus and response is, just so we'll understand that, because we're going to be talking about the rest of the day is different types of stimuli. That's more than one, or responses. So first, a stimulus is a singular, a detectable change in the internal or external environment of an organism. So that sunlight is a stimulus. It's external by nature. Okay, examples of stimuli: light, chemicals, gravity, temperature, touch, sound, water, electricity. It's plural stimuli. The next is the response. I don't know if you know what a touch me not, but that's what that is right there. You touch it, and within just a few seconds, it goes from the before to the after. Okay, so this is going to be the definition of what a response is. A response is any change an organism makes because of a change in the environment. So it's responding to the touch of in this case, a person. Sometimes it may be another organism. So anyway, let's continue on with, and then they give you some examples, like the plant bends toward the light, roots growing downward from gravity, touch responds to touch, roots do the same thing. This is a good video, so I wish I had time to show it, but this is funny. It's Jimmy Kimmel, and it's just the responses that these children have to their parents saying, and they really didn't do that, but saying that they stole all their candy and ate all their candy. So anyway, there's some different responses. All of the kids respond differently. Brain Games is another good little video to watch, but just for time's sake, we're moving on. Here's some examples. So we're going to go over this example, and we may choose one more. Probably we'll just do this one. So anyway, you're walking home from school one day when a large dog jumps out at you from behind a tree. He starts to growl and shows his teeth. You quickly turn around and walk in the opposite direction. So the stimulus is what? It's the dog. The response is how you react. If you turn around and walk away, or if you kick the dog, whatever you do, that's your response. Now, obviously, the response that you have is external. Maybe fear would be something internal, but in this case, walking away is an external response that takes place. Anyway, Here's a bunch more. You can kind of look at all of them, but we need to get on to the kind of the meat of the material today. So this probably goes up front. I'm sorry that the slide's here, but it will be probably fixed by the time you see it. So students will be able to explain, describe the forces involved in plants. So we're going to start with the first one. So what I would suggest doing is you take graphic organizers work really well. What I would do is just simply take a piece of paper and fold it in four, because there's going to be four different types of plant stimulus responses that take place. So the first one we're talking about is turgor pressure. Now, if you go back to the warm up, this is another plant cell. This one's kind of cool because it shows this is the water and the vacuole. So what happens is when a plant drinks water, every cell gets a little bit of water in its vacuole. The more water, the more full this plant cell is going to be. This has high turgor pressure. This one has low turgor pressure. Notice it's kind of like, this is almost like a tire, and this part would be like an inner tube. So you pump up, you'd have to put air in it. Of course, this you put water in it, and anyway, it will increase its volume until it pushes really up against the cell wall on all four sides. That gives it turgor pressure. When every one of the cells is full, then this is what it looks like. When it's low in turgor pressure, we all say it's dying. Well, really, it's not necessarily dying. It's just low in turgor pressure. Over time, yes, it will die. So anyway, that's kind of cool. What I would do is maybe draw something like this, maybe draw these plants down here, and then you could write this part right here. Anyway, that's the first one. The second one. Oh, well, let me continue on. I forgot this is kind of a continuation. Is turgor pressure an internal or external stimulus? That's the question, okay? And then the answer to all that's going to be in here. It's an internal stimulus, the amount of water in the vacuole. There's little water in the vacuole, it wilts. If it's a full vacuole, it will not wilt. So no wilting. Okay, here's an example. If you watch this video, this plant really perks up, and this is just in a few hours that it takes place. You can't see a plant move much, but in just a few hours, you can measure by taking pictures or just measure the height of it. Really, it's not growing; it's just moving because of the turgor pressure. You can watch that video. Another one is tropism. So the next one, phototropism. So anyway, phototropism is another type of force that plants have. Okay. I'll just kind of go over, please read all of this information here, but just don't have time to do it. So phototropism is the growth of a plant towards the light. So the plant starts growing towards the light. Okay, if you spun this plant around, it would be out this way for a little while, and then over time it would start to bend back toward the light. That helps those leaves. These are like photocells, sort of. If not, then the plant's not going to go through photosynthesis very easily. Okay, here is a good example of phototropism as far as a test question. This could be the stimulus, and the number 2 would be the response. That would be phototropism. It's not geotropism. We'll learn it's very similar, and sometimes plants can go through both, and they go through both at the same time. So it's an external stimulus, the sunlight is, and then the response is the growth toward the light. Here's a video of radishes moving and growing toward the light as they grow. From a seedling, if you don't know what a seedling is, you put a seed in the soil and watch it grow, and you have a seedling. It's not quite yet a plant. It's still a plant, but it's not a full-size plant yet. They call it a seedling. Okay, so geotropism or gravitropism, they mean the same thing. If a plant, you see something like this on the test, yes, it's growing toward the light sometimes, but it also grows, the stem grows upward and the roots grow downward. Even when a plant falls on its side, that's what takes place. Okay, so geo means earth. So it's growing toward the earth or away from the earth. There's positive and negative geotropism. The plant, obviously, if this part of the plant grew down, it would grow into the soil and then the roots would grow up. That wouldn't work. So anyway, the ability for a plant to grow its stems upward and roots downward in response to gravity. Or yes, gravity. Even with geo, that is still gravity. Um, anyway, so there it is again, another picture. So gravity. So it's an external stimulus, and the response is growth. What's the stimulus? It's the gravity is the stimulus, and response is how it grows uh, to the Earth in this case. So here's an example of it's a video where they're spinning it around. One is stationary, and this one has a motor behind it, and it's spinning around. And you kind of have to predict which one of these, what's going to happen to each one of these. So the plant is it because of geotropism. Is the plant going to keep growing outward, or is it going to grow upward? But if it's spinning, what's it going to do? Anyway, look at it. You'll see what a kind of predict for both and see what happens. Emergence of a seedling or a bulb. There has to be enough force. This is kind of a hard concept. This is going to be on your test. It's also going to be on your DCA. And I know it seems like it's a long way off, and it kind of is, but before you know it, you're going to have your DCA for your third 9 weeks. And one of the questions is, these are bulbs. These are actually, they look like onions, but these are not. They're in fact just bulbs for probably tulips or something like that. Anyway, they have them out of the ground so you could see them, but normally they're in the ground. This part doesn't go through photosynthesis, this part does. So if this is in the ground, if this cannot go through photosynthesis, so this is stored energy. Okay, just like your cell phone, not until it's plugged in, right? Or if you put a solar panel on, not until you put a solar panel, some kind of energy source. Well, these are going to stay in the ground until it's time, and then they're going to come up out of the ground. So they're going to have to be able to survive or hibernate almost, if you will, because there's no way for them to get more energy. So they rely on the energy, and they have to be able to. And I have to tie this in as well as the force. There has to be a force from the energy inside of here to force its way. Part of the plant is to force its way to the surface so that the leaves, or in this, these right here, so these leaves can come out so they can start photosynthesizing. Here, no photosynthesis taking place. Not until this first emerges. That's what emerging means, to come up out of the ground. Not until these seedlings emerge out of the ground will they start going through photosynthesis. So this is stored energy. So this bean, or whatever this is, probably a bean, probably not a pea, but that's the reason why, there's two reasons why when you put it too deep in the soil, it won't grow. One, or pack it too well in the soil. If it's too deep in the soil, it runs out of energy. Okay? And if it's too deep in the soil, it doesn't have enough force to push through because it's just a plant, right? It doesn't have muscles, but it does have a way to push its way through the surface there. So anyway, just about out of time. There's the emergence of the seedling right there. Okay, so that's an internal stimulus. The amount of stored energy in the seed is the stimulus, and the response is the growth that takes place, the force that's used to push up out of the ground. And that looks like that ground's kind of cracking there, so it's kind of dry, and it's pushing out of that ground. And if you can't use enough force to push out of the ground, then it won't make it, and it'll end up dying. So anyway, there's some questions that you can answer. So I guess the only assignment you need to turn in to me would be just the stimulus response part. But like I said, I would probably take each one of these, 4 of them, right? Each one of these and make you a graphic organizer and put the information on there in notes so that you can kind of keep that in your memory so that when you take your test, you'll have something to study for your test. Anyway, that's all. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Thanks.